Hello and welcome to another review. My name is Ash Figures, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the Transformers Age of the Primes Aerialbot Firelight. This is the other Aerialbot that came out with Skydive, and in the last review I mentioned that we would probably be looking at this guy. This of course will be the fourth out of the 5 Aerialbots that I will be reviewing, and we'll be looking at the last one sometime in the future. I'm not sure if that'll be the next video or not. Looking at the back of the box, I do like a lot of what's going on. Just first look, I did really like the other figure. I'm forgetting his name right now, but this guy is obviously the mold mate of him, and I'm liking a lot of the paint details there in the figure. So we'll have a look at that when we get this guy in hand, but without further ado, let's do that. And here we have Firelight in his jet mode. Wanted to start this in the alt mode just because we already had a look at Slingshot, and just want to have a little bit of a different intro than that. Now obviously with this, he is the same mold as Slingshot, but there is some slight differences that we'll have a look at. Mainly on the wings here, they're lower than that on Slingshot, creating this little bit of a different look to him. As with the wings, there's the cockpit that is a slightly different mold than that of the Slingshot figure, creating this more kind of regular jet form versus the kind of space shuttle look that Slingshot had, which does cause it to be a little bit different, which I do appreciate. As well, the wings are slightly different. They are a little bit smaller compared to Slingshot, not by much, but there is some slight differences there as well. As well with the tail fin there, it is slightly different with the different coloring, which looks pretty cool. I really love the silver there that gives that metallic shine. One thing I will note, it is pretty hard to see on the camera, but in hand, the tail fin here is actually a different color than the red that's used for the main body. So when you're looking here and here, it is slightly different coloring. As well, I should say, the red that is on the tail part here with the metallic silver is a little bit of a lighter red than the red here. So not very noticeable on camera, but something that you can kind of notice when you're having him in hand. Just something I thought I would bring up. Another thing I do like about this figure is the gray that's kind of thrown in from the cockpit down into the middle of the body. I feel it breaks up the red very nicely and adds a little bit of color to that red. So overall, I think this is a very great. Obviously, I do like the space shuttle look that Slingshot had, but I do like that they kind of made it a little bit different with Firelight, causing him to be a different jet, although very similar in style, which I do appreciate. I will say the underside of Firelight is a little bit better. It kind of blends in a little bit more compared than the red to the white of Slingshot here. You can see that it's mainly red with the white kind of blending in with the other pieces, so it looks a little better. But when it comes to the head, it's kind of white into the red, which doesn't look good, versus Slingshot, it's white to white. So some positives, some negatives, but overall I think they're both really good figures, or both jet modes, and clean up very, very nicely. So I will be giving the same point value that I did for Slingshot. There is some great stuff here. I do love the coloring. Definitely one of the better jet modes for sure. Moving on, we'll look at transformation and then into figure, the robot mode. Now, transformation done. I will say that it feels just as great transforming Firelight here as it did Slingshot. But with my figure specifically, I noticed some of the joints are a little bit tighter than that on Slingshot, just making it a better feel. You know, maybe that's just my specific copy, but that's just something that I noticed. Overall, same point value for Firelight here that I would have given Slingshot, and an enjoyable transformation. Now we'll move on into looking at some of the details and posability for Firelight. Starting off with something that I've noticed, The chest plate on my figure has a little bit of paint scuffs. There's a little bit of red kind of mixed in with the white there. A little bit of unfortunate there, but it is something that's happened. Not sure if this is just for my copy or for anybody else, but something I thought I would mention. While we're on kind of paint details, the white on the hands and the shoulder there are slightly different. The forearm is like a glossy white versus the kind of upper shoulder, which is kind of a matte white. Just something I noticed as well, just to point out. I do really like the silver there on the hands. Looks way better than the black that looked on Slingshot. Another thing too, I do like the helmet a little bit better. I like the kind of personality that the orange gave Slingshot, but I do like that they've kind of opted for a kind of more normal head sculpt for Firelight here. I really like the blue that kind of pops in with the against that gray there, and then the silver there just kind of break it all up. Looks really great. Moving down, we also have the same issue that the other figure had with the hole there in the not shoulder, but the leg there. So that is present there as well. But overall, it is very similar in robot mode. There's no real new parts. It's more different paint, which I do really like. It took what I didn't like about Slingshot and made the mold way better with the paint details. Looking at the blue there that breaks up the chest plate with the red kind of breaking up the white as well. And then kind of the lower abdomen there with the white poking through the red, and then the blue and the white there as well. Just makes it so much more lively, I feel, versus the kind of black and red that, you know, the Slingshot figure had. So it looks a little bit better, and it does hide the kind of holes here in the chest a little bit better. I do miss the glossiness that the figure had here on like the middle of the chest, but I do like that that blue is kind of there to break up the red and the white. The only thing I think would have made this a little bit better, and this is going to nitpick territory, is I wish these buttons here on the leg would have brought in some of the gray that was in the back. I think that would have been like way cool. Just to kind of break up the white, because you kind of have white to white and then to the black. I feel like a little bit of gray just in the leg there would have been awesome. Now, obviously, if I'm not sure if that would be totally accurate to what Firelight here comes from, but I think just from my perspective, that would have been pretty cool. Other than that, this figure is very great. Like I said, I do love the Slingshot mold, so this is taking that and kind of elevating it with the paint details, so it's an A plus for me. I will probably give this an extra point in the detail territory, just because of those paint details, just elevating that part of the figure. Moving on to the accessories, the does come with two blasters here. The other one here is on the leg I just put on. There's no other way to kind of display for weapon storage other than on the wings there. But I think it looks pretty cool. But it is the exact same one that Slingshot had, which does kind of disappoint me a little bit, because with Air Raid and Skydive, they kind of had two different blasters, differentiating the two. But with Slingshot and Firelight here, they are the exact same blaster in the same mold as, and the same color as well. Jumping quickly into Articulation, the head is on a ball joint, can move all the way around 360, can move up slightly just about to that far, and then down kind of a little bit more, so that looks pretty cool. The arms here, there is a little bit of a like butterfly joint here in the shoulder that you can kind of move around and to your liking. This is part of transformation, but you can kind of get it into a way that makes it more believable for like arm articulation, which looks pretty cool. The shoulder there can move all the way 360. You do have to remind you that the kind of piece sticking out here might block it in some ways. Just kind of have to move it around. Moving down to the elbow there, you can move it 360 like so. The hand, or the elbow, can bend all the way past 90 degrees all the way into the shoulder. This is part of the transformation, so that's why that happens. And the hand you cannot articulate, is kind of just stagnant there, which is what it is. Moving down to the waist, he does have a waist articulation. Can move all the way 360. Down to the legs, we can kick forwards to that far, backwards to that far. The thighs here you can swivel 360, and the knee you can kind of get just about to 90 degrees. It's just there. And then for the feet here, we can get him into, you can bend like the toes a little bit. This is for transformation. You can't really, I mean, I guess you can kind of have it like that. But then the ankles do rock all the way to that far. So overall, very great articulation. Like I said, this is a really great mold that I do like from Slingshot. And yeah, everything continues from him. Now with that articulation, you can get him to obviously some great poses, which we'll kind of throw throughout the video. So overall, I think articulation is just as great as Slingshot, so it will be getting the same amount of points. Now, jumping into final thoughts and kind of value for the figure. Obviously, this is part of the Constructicon, not Constructicon, sorry, the Combiner Superion. Now, obviously, if you're making Superion, you're going to obviously get this figure. If you're getting a standalone figure, I think Firelight on his own is even great. Like I said, I do love the Slingshot mold, so you can't go wrong with either Slingshot or Firelight if you're just getting one of these figures for whatever reason. But I think Firelight just comes out on top a little bit better, just on the kind of paint details and that are thrown into this figure. And don't get me wrong, I do like Slingshot and the different aspects of him, like the orange helmet is very unique to him. I love the space shuttle design that the jet mode looks like versus kind of the more standardized jet mode that Firelight has. But overall, I think Firelight comes out a little bit more on top, for my own personal opinion. And again, if you're getting Superion, if you're going to make him, you obviously need Firelight. So I think value-wise, I think he is pretty great. I'm very curious now that we are only one figure away from Superion, what that will look like when it's all combined. But we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. There we go. That's the right one. Overall, great figure and great value. I do wish that the actual blasters were maybe a slightly different, even just a different paint job or mold. Mold color would have been nice, just to break it up a little bit, maybe in like a gray or something. I think would have been nice just to kind of show off some of the gray that's in the jet mode there, but just a little nitpick there. Overall, same kind of point value that Slingshot had for his overview, minus or plus that you get an extra point for that paint details. But without further ado, that will be the end of the video. What do you think of Firelight here, and are you excited to finally get? Are you excited that we're finally getting closer to Superion? I'm very interested to see what that will look like with all these different figures now. We just have one more to go, which is obviously Silverbolt, which I have here. It's kind of massive, but I am interested to see what that will look like and kind of compare them to the rest of the Aerialbots. I'm not sure when I'll get to that. I do want to kind of get into some of the other figures, and obviously I have the Constructicons to get into as well, and obviously now I have new figures to look at with Onyx Prime and the other primes that came in, so there's some different things that are going on there. I also want to get into some of the more Studio Series figures, like the Bayverse figures. I haven't really shown much love. I'm thinking maybe looking at Q for the next video. I think will be pretty cool. This figure you can still kind of get pretty reliably in stores, so I think it'll be a nice kind of video to look at to see if he's worth to get. So this will probably be the next week's video, but we'll see. But without further ado, if you did like the video, please leave it a like, and join me in my next review next week. Thank you, and have a great day.